All right, patch back in effect. We're gonna go over our last remaining steps here in creating our Zentangle animal. We're getting close to the pen stage here. That's what mostly we're gonna go over for this video. So I chose a cheetah again for my animal reference. Nice large picture to work from. I broke it down into simple shapes first, which you guys seen in the previous steps. And now we see the simple shapes right in here. And now I'm breaking those even further down into medium and even small shapes. What I'd like you guys to concentrate on is a good variety of small, medium, and large on here. So we see kind of some nice large pattern work here. Maybe some empty space would work for that too. And then look for areas where you can put in like medium to small details. So kind of create a variety and mix and match there. If your illustration has a lot of detail, which I tend to do a lot, sometimes it gets a little bit lost, all those great things. So it's good to kind of open up some of the space, some nice large shapes, and it just makes it easier to look at too for the viewer. So as we can see, the cheetah, you know, not quite looking like a cheetah anymore. It looks more like a cougar or a lioness. I can see where I probably made some mistakes. I think I made the eyes a little bit too big and the nose too wide. You know, cheetahs have some smaller features here. And I noticed here it's a little bit more boxy, and even the head is kind of looking like more like a pentagon. And of course, I'm missing those indicative spots here. So if I did this again, I would actually make some shapes, some bolder, simple shapes around where the spots are, and then just do open spotted areas, and then do like detail areas in between, like in here. I might do it again. I'm pretty much doing this for my daughter because spirit animal is a cheetah. She thinks she can run pretty fast, and she's got a lot of freckles. So she kind of looks like a cheetah, runs like a cheetah. It's kind of cute. All right, so nonetheless, I'm pretty happy with you know, how it's going so far. I'm gonna finish it off. As you guys can see, lots of detail in here. And as you guys begin to illustrate the detail, continue to use a really light pencil and keep an eraser nearby. I'd even recommend, you know, illustrators, if they're working in one area, they tend to use another piece of paper with their hand on it, and that limits any sort of smudging. You probably definitely want to do that once we get to the pen stage, okay? So just to kind of illuminate this a little bit, I'm gonna get a little bit closer here for you. All right, and you know, I did it symmetrical, so basically it did the right side, and all I need to do is kind of repeat what's going on there. But we started off with this really large shape first. I broke it down even further and kind of cut it in the middle because I want to do two different things here. And so I kind of did these leaf shapes. And notice how I'm going right over the top of that line. I don't need to erase it. Okay. And then I went in with some larger, more roundish kind of leaf shapes here. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to do about the same. If not, that's fine. 3, 4, and then 5-ish. Kind of make that a little bit bigger. Okay. And I will erase, and I'm missing my eraser, of course. Let's see, where'd it go? Hey, there we are. So like these little lines in between. You can see those lines kind of tend to disappear a little bit. And to really get them out of the way, just kind of darken up the shapes that you overlap with, okay? Now, I started also to fill in areas that are gonna be complete solid black, so I can kind of start to see that. And I even did some areas that are gonna be my midtones, like my grays. And so, hard to see in here, but I got some nice solid black lines that'll stand out. And I did some hatching lines in here. I keep that pretty consistent. And that will help me because when I go back over it in pen, I know what to do. And I added some small little details on these. A little bit darker in here. Okay. All right. Notice with the eyes, we want to try to keep those as realistic as possible. Look for the highlight in your eyeball to see if you have that. And usually the pupil, a lot of times beginning artists want to do the pupil right in the middle. Usually it's kind of connected to a shadow. And so you're going to get this dark round circle connected to a dark top. Sometimes that's just eyelashes, especially if it's on a human. So try not to do it right in the middle. And I did some hatching lines kind of for the color of the eyeball in here. I might just keep those lines for my kind of mid-tone area. And you know, I want you guys to focus on, even for each excuse me, each individual shape, try to do like a dark, medium, and light, just kind of like I did here. I did dark, medium on the middle, and then light, just kind of open white areas. So I like to start off, I just kind of want to shade these, which you'll see in this example here, which I kind of like these areas. Okay, dark, medium, light. So to do that, you always want to start off light and end up dark. So okay, and I'm going to overlap all this in pen anyways. I'm just trying to get an idea of what I want. Okay. Am I doing that right? I'm actually doing that wrong. As you can see here, I did some lines here and I did that for the bottom one, so I'll go back and fix that. All right. But again, just for each shape, try to think of something that you can design that will be dark, medium, and light. All right, so to get to the pen stage here, okay, we'll pretend this is all finished and I'm ready to go. And this is where you start feeling pretty good because you're done with your design, and all you have to do is really outline it and be very conscious about trying not to mess it up, because you know, once you get the pen, you can't erase anything. You can try to fix some stuff, but you know, try not to mess it up as much as you can. If you guys have some pens, I'd recommend just like a solid ink pen, okay, for some nice solid blacks. And actually just a regular, kind of like a Bic pen, okay? This is good for some nice thin lines in here, especially if you do some hatching. And you can see that it's kind of flip the stroke, and you can actually blend these pretty nicely together. If you guys can see that nice shading there, okay? If you guys have any technical pens, which most of you probably don't, these will work great too. Sometimes these can get really small for those hatch lines. Regular ink pens, depends on the size. You can see those lines are a little bit thicker. So those just end up really good for the nice solid darks. Okay, so and get a little bit closer here. I'm just gonna shade the nose area. We'll see what this looks like here. I'm probably gonna start off with the Bic pen, because it tends to be a little bit lighter. I don't know, maybe I'll outline. Okay, so I'm going to take this paper, put my hand over it, and do these leaf shapes here. Nice fluid line. Again, you're probably going to maybe change some lines around. Like I can see this goes right in the hair. I just kind of wanted to do this. Okay, so just feel free to do so. Just kind of use your own instinct. Try to connect those edges and lines. Don't like leave any open shapes. Try not to overlap any lines into any other areas. Okay, nice consistent speed too. Try not to go too fast or too slow. And let's see. Outline this. And I'm just going to do this one section just to show you guys how to shade. overlap, leave some space in there. Try not to have edges go right into other edges. Let's see. Okay, did all right. Thickening these lines up too. When you guys use a gel pen, give it a little bit of time to dry. If you rub your hand right over it right after you put it down, it might smear. It probably will. Okay, nice consistent thickness there. And after this, I'll eventually do a time lapse for you guys. And you guys can see that, as a teacher, I really like to work with you guys during the process. I've done this before, and working through the process every time just, keeps me consistent. I like drawing art, and it keeps me in tune with mistakes and details that you guys might do. Sometimes it's hard. There's not always one way to do stuff, so sometimes you guys might run into problems that I don't think of. Okay, try to be a little bit more consistent there. Okay, now these areas right in here I shaded, so I'm going to go in the big pen first and do some kind of hatch lines. Get a little bit darker, a little bit more congested towards the end there. Notice how I'm flicking the pen. You can actually do some nice ranges of value, some pretty nice shading with big pens. Even though this isn't a big, it's the same style. Okay. Now shading is pretty hard for you guys at this stage, I understand that, but it looks really nice if you guys can do it. So I always try to demo stuff, kind of push you guys a little bit. Okay, and you can also, after it's done, shade with the pencil. It's a little bit easier for some of you folks. Okay, just kind of flick. So that line's pretty consistent. And practice too before you get onto your final drawing, like on a loose sheet. Like practice doing like pretty consistent lines. See if you can keep the thickness the same. Okay, it's all practice, just like with anything else. So you can see, like, keeping that open white area there, it's like creating like a little highlight. Okay, there's a spot here. Get a little bit more congested in there. Art is really slow. So that's why I'm working on more time-lapse stuff. But that looks pretty good. Kind of like I missed some areas here. All right, I'm using a lighter sheet of paper. I'm not using that mixed media paper. Not for any reason here. So you'll see that the actual gel pen kind of bleeds a little bit. You shouldn't have that problem too much. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Nice light lines first. Always go light to dark. And then as you get down towards the bottom, thicken up and overlap those lines just a little bit more, a little bit shorter. Then eventually pure dark. You just gotta flick of the wrist. Clean up those edges there. So that looks pretty good right there. All right. Okay, so almost done there. Let's do the eye just so you guys can see what that looks like here. And I did a nice dark line around here. Notice I went fluid with that stroke. Try to turn your paper as you do that. Okay, just kind of like whatever way your hand flows. And it's all about your wrist too, so make sure you kind of start at the bottom of your wrist so you can move up. Your wrist goes about a little less than 180 degrees for that. And you can see like when you stop, sometimes it bleeds and makes a dot, so. Okay. This one's overlapped, so I'm going to do these ones first. And then, okay, don't forget about these. And solid dark. Okay, so I'm going to try not to rub my hand over that. I'm the king of doing that. Nice fluid stroke. Let's outline the highlight so we don't forget that. And fill this in. So some nice dark, solid darks in there. Help us fill up the space. Okay, and this was naturally on the cheetah. So you'll notice that in some of your animals. They already have some natural shapes to work with. Okay, so notice how the pupil goes right into the top. It gives it a little bit more natural look. And you'll notice that even on people, that's usually what it tends to do. Okay, just kind of fill that up. Now, I'm gonna blow on that just a little bit because I don't want to smear it. And so a lot of people, even with human eyeballs, tend to do those strokes, you know, in there. You'll notice on the cheetah, it's just kind of gray, you know, it's just kind of got this area here, but even this is light gray. I'm just going to do a little bit darker here, just with some hatching lines, and this will be my mid-tone. I'm going to go one direction. Try to keep these lines consistent and kind of keep it in a circle. And if you want to, you can draw like a light circle with pencil. Just kind of keep it in there, and then you guys can erase later. Okay, that looks pretty good. And you'll see a little bit, if you do want to make it a little bit more realistic, you can see some darker areas here, so maybe you cross hatch a little bit. Hopefully I don't mess this up. Right in there. So it kind of gets a little bit darker there. And that looks pretty good. Okay, and so that's where you want to get with your ink drawings. Again, you guys can use colored paper and jelly roll pens. It'll probably look a lot cooler than black and white. Just make sure that ink stands out, and feel free to use colored pens. But for this one, I'd recommend using one consistent color. If you happen to use markers, you guys can use different color markers. Just make sure you got one dark, one light, and make sure those tips are really fine. You're not going to get a really cool drawing with a kind of fat tip marker, so recommend more Sharpies for that. And make sure you use the mixed media paper if you are using Sharpies, because they will tend to bleed on just regular paper. Okay, this is a 9x12 type drawing. Okay, fit on the paper. I'm just doing the head here, and yeah, I just got to finish. I'm going to go ahead and finish the pencil drawing and then go back over the whole thing in pen. And I'll do a time lapse for that for our last video here. All right, hope that helped. I hope you guys have fun doing this, and I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. All right, take care.